First Black History Month edition of the Just is Easy show. I'm Dr. Chappelle Griffin. Black History Month is a celebration of the culture and achievement of people of African descent, and it's celebrated in both Canada and the United States. Black History Month was pioneered by Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Known as the father of Black history, Dr. Woodson seemed to understand that no man can seem to understand where he's going unless he's known where he's been and exactly how he arrived at his present place. Dr. Woodson completed his PhD in history at Harvard University in 1912, where he was the second African American to earn his doctorate degree, of course, behind W.E.B. Du Bois. Anyway, convinced that the role of African American history and the history of other cultures were being ignored or misrepresented among the scholars, Woodson saw a need for research into the neglected past of African Americans. Thus, in 1915, he was inspired to create the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. In 1926, Dr. Woodson initiated the celebration of Negro History Week, which corresponded with the birthdays of Frederick Douglass as well as that of Abraham Lincoln. Flash forward 50 years, in 1976, the celebration was expanded to include the entire month of February. And today, Black History Month garners support throughout the country as people of all ethnic backgrounds and social background discuss the Black experience. Joining me today to talk about Black History Month and African American studies, as well as some really important things that he has on his calendar, is Fresno State University Professor Ellis. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
All right, great. Fresno State is my alma mater. That's where I got my doctorate degree.
Great. In what field?
In educational leadership.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So talk to me about what you teach over there and how things are going.
I'm a professor of theater arts at Fresno State. I have a couple of specialties. One of my specialties is African American theater. And also I teach acting. I teach directing. I teach acting for film. And I teach African American theater. So a lot of people say, well, what's African American theater? I mean, is that like black people? Do they act differently from white? Well, they do. They actually do. And in a nutshell, if you go to a black church and then you go to a white Catholic church in Massachusetts, you're going to see two radically different kinds of Christian worship. Sure. Services. Sure. So, and when you hear blues, by the way, I just saw a movie. I don't know if we can announce that, but I saw a movie with Kevin Hart, and just a couple of nights ago, and it was interesting because Aretha Franklin was singing an operatic song, and the opera expert, this stuffy white guy, he was like, "Who's that singer? I never heard of that." And it's like, "This is Aretha."
Absolutely.
Actually, it was the other way around. Kevin Hart didn't know that she filled in for Pavarotti some years ago.
I saw that in the tribute.
There you go. Exactly. Well, that's featured in this movie.
Awesome.
But the point I'm making is that there are differences in what we bring as a culture to just every art form: Absolutely. Music, dance, theater, the whole thing, visual art, photography, the whole thing. So, so there's it's all touched by our culture.
Absolutely. You were preaching to the choir, and I know you don't know this about me, but my undergraduate degree is from Florida A&M University.
Yes.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. All right.
We'll get into that.
Historically Black College University, where my major was theater. Yeah. And so I have a lot of friends with.
Now, is that FAMU?
That is FAMU.
That's FAMU.
FAMU Rattlers. So, but let's talk about the African Studies program over at Fresno State. Has that always been, or how long has it been there?
Well, now we're kind of meandering into another subject. There is a department or a department unit. It's not exactly. It's a program called Africana Studies, which used to be called Black Studies.
Okay.
But it's basically the study of Africans in America, basically Black Studies, and that's. This is confusing because I am the chair of that department, although that's not my field. My field is in African American theater.
Okay.
But Black Studies includes history of African Americans, sociology of psychology, all of these academic disciplines as it applies to Black folks.
Okay, so let's meander back to Black theater. Let's stay in that vein.
Okay.
All right, so we're talking plays like...
Oh, well, A Raisin in the Sun.
Raisin in the Sun is classic.
Yes. Fences, August Wilson's, which just people know of it now because the masses know of Fences now because Denzel just did the movie.
Absolutely.
But, 25, 30 years ago, it was a play that ran on Broadway, did quite well. There are a number of other African American plays.
Colored Museum, Hands Too Short to Box with God,
which I tried to get the rights for to do at Fresno State, by the way.
Is that right?
But the writers, one of the writers died, and the other one is not able to grant the license to do it because she has to do it with a partner. So I've been trying to do that play in this city for 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, can't get it. But yeah, that's another example of, and Langston Hughes wrote a number of African American plays that were set in Harlem.
Sure.
Simply Heavenly and Little Ham, which go back to the 50s and the 40s. So we've been doing theater in this country since the early 1800s.
Absolutely. Yeah. And beyond that, Africans have been engaging in theater. In fact, I'd like to say that we created theater because, if you study history in public schools, in U.S. public schools, they attribute theater as beginning in Greece. But if you're in the know, you know that, folks in Africa, we've been having theater and cultural rituals and celebrations since the beginning of time.
Since when the Europeans were in caves, basically.
Absolutely.
We're not supposed to say that. But it's true. I mean, we predate a lot of art forms and a lot of scientific study, astronomy and mathematics. That came from the motherland. The Greek philosophers actually had this study with Africans.
Absolutely.
And, a lot of times people just don't, express
it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not included in the textbooks.
No, it's not.
All right, so let's meander. Okay. That's my new word now.
That's cool.
Let's meander. All right, so I want to talk about the play that that's gonna run this spring.
This spring, I'm doing a show, and let me digress and just say that this is the first African American musical, all African American musical ever done at Fresno State in the Fresno State's 111-year history.
Wow, and we're talking about Carmen Jones.
Carmen Jones. Carmen Jones, ironically, is based on a European model, the opera Carmen. It was written essentially by Oscar Hammerstein back in the 30s. And it's his interpretation of how black folks live and kind of like Porgy and Bess.
Sure.
Which
is one of my favorites.
Yes. But, it's a white person's image of black folks. Right. And it takes black folks to make it work because, you can observe us and think you know us.
Sure.
But you're going to still have to use African Americans to do that work.
That's true.
But anyway, it's a good show. It's a love story that goes awry. Carmen is an alluring Beyonce kind of person. Everybody wants to get with Carmen. And,
absolutely.
And
she's a parachute maker, right? Or something
that's
in the movie.
That's the opera.
Right.
The opera is that. And no. The movie. Okay, so the opera, she works in a cigarette factory.
Sure.
When they turn it into a black story, she's a parachute maker.
Right.
In my interpretation, this is going to be taking place at an HBCU, like FAMU,
right on.
In the South,
okay.
In the 70s. So we're going to have big afros.
Oh, wow.
You're a little bit too young to know about that sort of thing.
Well, I guess I am.
Yeah, right on. Power to the people, leather jackets, power to the people. And I haven't quite figured out what, we don't really need an industry per se because she's going to be on a college campus.
Okay.
So their industry is that they're students.
Take. Sure.
Yeah. So but Joe is still going to be in the Army. He's going to be in ROTC. Joe's the boyfriend.
Oh, I know.
So we're going to keep the military thing because he has to leave the military to run off after Carmen. So we're still keeping the major themes. We're just altering that cigarette factory and that parachute factory a little bit.
So correct me if I'm wrong, Professor Ellis. So Carmen is that character who seduces like someone else's boyfriend, right? She seduces Joe.
Yeah.
Right? And there's murder involved as well, right?
There's a couple of murders. And I just wanted to mention to our audience. No, I can give that away because it's based on the opera.
Right.
There are a couple of murders, and I want to also say that this is one of the few productions that I've ever done at Fresno State that's essentially for all family members because typically there's too much harsh language in my play or too much sexual innuendo, although, I'm not saying that's what the sort of thing I'm trying, but that's in our literature.
Sure.
So if it's in the literature, that's what I'm doing. And so I don't pull any punches. In fact, I did Color Girls here a few years ago.
Great.
Thank you. It's a little anecdote. I did Color Girls here at Fresno State, and, this is hard-hitting, hardcore.
Oh, I know. I'm familiar with that one.
Okay. So, language, the story deals with abortion. There's a lot of harsh language.
Sure.
It's female-centered, female-centric.
It sure
And
is.
some friends invited some other friends that I wouldn't have invited. You know, I know my audience. I know the African American audience that I have to deal with. I know it pretty well.
Okay.
And I know I'm not going to invite a whole bunch of church folks
Oh my.
to color to
Yes.
not color museum, but color
Right.
color purple, but for color
Colored
girls.
girls who
I'm not going to do it
exhibit
because you know a
some
lot of them just. You know, Professor Ellis, we don't do that kind of thing over here in the black church over here.
Right,
you know?
right.
So if some friends invited some more friends, and as soon as they walked in the door, I thought, oh, they're going to freak out and I'm not going to change anything.
Right. You have to maintain, some truth in terms of the playwright's
Exactly.
vision.
The playwright's vision. If you write the play that way, I'm going to leave it that way.
Absolutely.
So, and as soon as they walked in, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, my reputation, because essentially I go through a lot of work to keep my audiences kind of segmented.
Sure.
And that wasn't a show for, holiness.
When you
week.
advertise it, did you put like a little disclaimer
Definitely.
on it about language?
Strong language, adults. I just did Richard Wright's Native Son.
Right, right.
That was adapted to the stage recently, a second adaptation, and it had some very strong sexual innuendo.
For sure.
And that wasn't for everybody. People still, Professor Ellis, was all of that in the play? It's all of that really necessary, Professor Ellis? And I'm saying, look, it's in the movies. It's
Like,
in
I didn't write it. Right?
Exactly. So this play, Carmen Jones, is kid-friendly. There are a couple of murders, but there's not a lot of blood and gore
Sure.
and that sort of thing. There's no harsh language at all. And there's no sex, there's no real violence, except for the two murders
Right.
that we're going to kind of sanitize.
You'll find a
it.
creative way.
I'll find a creative way of doing
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this is a musical.
Yes.
So I know that you had the auditions January 22nd and 23rd, right?
Exactly. I'm still seeing people by, if our viewers are seeing my phone number on the screen, I am doing a few interviews for people that missed the auditions because I am using Fresno State students.
And the community.
And
I
the
read
community.
it, yeah.
So community people and people from other schools are encouraged to audition. I have about dozens of parts, mostly in the choir though, because the leads are pretty much taken.
Oh.
But I mean, I still have some open leads. I mean, I have the boxer.
What about the part of Joe? Has that already been
Joe?
taken?
Joe has not been cast. Who's the boyfriend?
Right.
And Husky Miller, who is the other boyfriend. Those two have not been cast yet. That's the boxer.
The boxer, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right, so there is some hope for me.
There's some hope for people, you and people in the community, if they can sing. I need a tenor and a second tenor baritone.
I am a baritone tenor. I have that whole range.
Now, can you sing though?
Oh my God!
I
Yes.
mean, well,
I was a musical theater major.
Really?
Absolutely.
Okay, all
see.
right. Well, then we'll talk when we go off the air.
I was
We'll
going to say,
talk.
don't make me start singing. All right, so
Do you know the song? Toreador.
I don't know that song, but I read sheet music, and I saw the movie, and so I'm familiar with it.
So the reason I'm on your show now, so you can get a lead in my play. Is that
That's the whole reason. You figured it out. You figured it out.
I get it.
Professor Ellis.
I've been bribed before. It's all good.
So for community members who are interested, it's being shown now. So
I
if
hope
you're
so.
interested in joining the cast of Carmen Jones, you will contact Professor Ellis at the number that's listed below.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anything else that's coming down the pipeline? Your students, do you have students who direct plays and that kind of thing?
Actually, one of my students that graduated from Fresno City and then Fresno State, she's interviewing at a number of schools, Yale and UC Irvine. A lot of my former students go on, mostly actors, not directors, but a lot of them go on. As a matter of fact, I'm bringing one of my former students back to Fresno State to play the lead in Carmen Jones.
Oh, that's good.
Briere Tinder. So a lot of people that have seen some of my plays in the last 7 years, they will recognize Briere. She's one of my top actresses.
Nice.
And she's coming back to do this again.
That sounds great. I guess where I was going with that, when I was a theater major at Florida A&M University, the theater department, a part of the program required that students take, oral interpretation and like directing and those kinds of things. So I wondered if there was a time in the year where student directed plays are running so that I can drop in and check some of them out.
We do have student directed plays. They typically don't do African American plays though. I think in the many years that I've been there, we've done maybe 2 student directed, maybe
right?
3. student-directed African-American plays, and that's only because the drama department has a small African-American population.
Okay.
If there are more black people in the drama department, then the student-directed plays would be more voluminous. But
Gotcha.
right now, not so much. Sometimes I'll mentor a directing student and have them direct a black play through the auspices of my black theater class. But we actually have a student director program called ETC.
Okay.
And those students typically don't do African-American plays.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I'm kind of thinking back to when I was there. So we had to we choose our own plays, and I think one, and mine wasn't an African American play. It was called Goodbye to the Clown, and a couple of days before the play was to run, a couple of my lead actors got into it, and I had to find a replacement. I had actually used my girlfriend at the time, so it got really messy because of egos. Like
That's drama. That's drama. It's drama in drama.
Drama in drama.
Were they black?
Oh yeah, they were.
Oh, there's
black.
more drama.
Yeah, exactly.
It's black drama.
Right.
Listen, I can write a book on that. I understand your pain. I've done that. That happens all the time.
I'm
With
sure
this
it
show right here, there's going to be a whole slew, and I'm not trying to be negative or jinx my show, but that happens. There's going to be someone that has to quit the show.
Yes.
Somebody's going to get mad at somebody's boyfriend or girlfriend, and there's going to be
Yeah.
some bad. Not much. And I'm going to try to discourage that and suppress that. But that's a part of what we do.
It totally
Yeah,
is.
That's what we
and so
do.
you're mature enough to handle it. But I think I was probably 20.
You wouldn't
My
know.
God! At the day before the show, I had to actually get my girlfriend and someone else to play the same character. So I had to buy them. It was creative thinking, though. I found
Last
matching
minute changes.
outfits. Yeah, absolutely.
I did a show here about 3 years ago, and the lead actress, there's only 4 people in the play, the lead actress about 10 days before we opened, she just couldn't do the show. I had to literally get one of my other former actresses, one of Briere's contemporaries, by the way, Deja Thompson, who's they're really dynamic. Both of them are neck and neck. But I had to bring her up from L.A. to play the lead. And had you seen that show, she had about 10 days of rehearsal, maybe less, and you wouldn't have known
That's
it.
talent.
Yeah.
That's where that talent kicks in.
Yeah, well, exactly. So we do a good job of training our students. The program that I came out of at Sac State, I had a black mentor. So he realized that I wanted to be an actor and also a director. Okay. So he personally made sure that I took a lot of directing classes and a lot of acting classes to help build my own personal career path. And I kind of do that now, but most of my students want to be actors.
People don't realize all the work that goes into being a director. They think that you can just be a director and
Or
yell
they
at
think
people.
it just falls together by itself.
Oh my God! I remember having to analyze the script and look for the major dramatic question, all that kind of stuff, and then try to make sure that that's easy to see. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
Can we meander to Black History Month? So, part of what I always like to talk about, my soapbox issue, is to try to close the achievement gap. And I really think there are a myriad of reasons why it exists. Mm-hmm. But now that it's February, I think that it's appropriate to talk about the fact that, there needs to be some changes in terms of curriculum that our students are exposed to in order to engage students of color. I really feel like that's a huge piece of it. I think that students of color are not connected. And so I wanted to ask you for your expert opinion.
Okay, so yes, we have an issue with K-12 education.
Absolutely.
I'm not bad mouthing K-12 education. This is education in America is touted as one of the best kinds of education in the world, theoretically. But if black curriculum and the issues of black life as a part of American life, if that's not strategically woven into the mainstream curriculum, you're going to have these gaps.
Yes.
And I'm not just saying African American, just every American, Native American. Now, the K-12 educator is going to say, well, we have curriculum that includes the story of the Native Americans and black. But
we got Martin Luther King.
Of course. And we just give you a whole month because it did used to be a week and then 2 weeks. Now we have a month and Martin Luther King. But students do graduate from high school without the same kind of knowledge of our history as they know American history.
I totally agree with you.
And you can't tell American history without telling our history.
Absolutely.
So, I'm not bad-mouthing K-12 education. It's not my thing. Right. But I can say that when students get into college, they're not prepared with regard to this subject.
Well, let me tell you, everything that I know about Black history, I didn't learn in K-12.
There
I
you go.
learned
There you
in upper, in college.
Yes.
And I'm so fortunate that I attended an HBCU. And I was like, oh my God, this! If I had known this, I would have sat up so much straighter in my chairs in
That's
K-12,
true. That's true.
and I would have paid so much more attention.
One more quick point about that is that we're also, as parents, are not really encouraging their children to major in Africana or African American studies in college.
There you go.
They don't think there's going to be a way to make money, et cetera, et cetera. And I just like to say on the air, Michelle Obama, she was a Black Studies major.
Right.
There's several.
And then law.
And then law, of course. Well, that's just, we prepare students to go into law,
Absolutely.
to get a PhD,
Yes.
to be, leaders and thinkers, and astronauts, the whole thing. So Black studies is not nor is theater. That's another. I can't even get into.
It's the same thing.
Yes.
It's not the same thing, but it's the same school of thought.
Yeah.
The paradigm is, if you're a theater major, you're
You're not going to make any money.
Yeah, you're
You're
going to
not
pay the
gonna-
Poe House. I heard that so many times, but
Exactly.
I had 4 jobs.
But yet they'll spend a lot of money to see Denzel or Will Smith. These are people that are making a lot of money doing this, and it doesn't mean you have to be a millionaire. But I'm teaching. I'm not going to say how much money I make. It's a little bit, and also I'm on the black man's salary.
Oh boy, there's one of those too at the collegiate level. Oh.
Exactly, but the point I'm making
That's
is that my parents encouraged me to get an advanced degree.
Right.
They didn't care what it was in, as long as I got an advanced degree in it, because they knew that even if I got an advanced degree in the theater, that I was going to be okay.
That's right.
They weren't going to settle for a BA in that.
Absolutely.
So I was able to convince them, and they said, "Okay, boy, well, you go ahead, but you're going to have to get something else besides a bachelor's in this." So we worked out a deal. But a lot of parents, they steer their children away.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
We're talking to Professor Ellis. In just a moment, we're going to go to commercial break, and then we come back. We'll have 2 more guests. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming back, ladies and gentlemen. Presenting our resident rapper, Just Icee.
Hey, yeah. Hey, yeah. Hey, yeah. We in the trap, we straight from Mars. What is the sauce to the milk in the barn? I'ma pull up with a real foreign car, and they wanna talk, so I'm keeping my guard. What did you say? Just like Febreze, cause you know that I spray. Let's go to my crib, just open the gates, that's going both ways. What have I became? Like I was wipers, I'm making it clear. Go to the top like I'm a reindeer. Hop up in Jerry's whip, you know we steer. Gucci cologne, that's all that we hear. Run up a check through the mail. I'm spitting bars like I'm jail. Get in the green like it's kale. Shout to Scott, I mean Dale. I got the sauce with the drip with the water. You trying to test me like I am your father. I'm getting green like it's Foster. You was a boofy, just talk as your coster. This is new to me, don't make attempts. I'm in the cut like I'm wet. I'm in the cut like I'm Shaq. Honey, just look at this mess. Look at the diamond finesse. Hey, I'm playing Roblox, you a guess. Ooh. Yes, less. Ooh, I get Arizona's from Shell. Ooh, and we walking home and we deep. Hey, yeah. 200 will put you to sleep. Hey, young Goofy ain't talking to me. Hey.
All right. Thank you so much, Just Icee. All right, that's pretty awesome. Okay, thank you for coming back. You guys, remember, it is February, which means it is Black History Month. I want to welcome our guest, Mr. Nwaike, who is a businessman here from Brazil. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
All right, so the reason that you're on the show, I wanted you to talk to us about some of the experiences that you've had in Brazil as a black man, and just kind of talk about the African diaspora. We certainly understand that there are Africans in Brazil and all over the world, but especially in Brazil and parts of South America as a result of the African diaspora in the slave trade. But I wanted you to just kind of talk about that and talk about whether or not there's a social strata there as there is and was here.
Yeah, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm grateful for being with you guys here. Awesome. I'm Chibuzor. I'm from Brazil. I'm a businessman. I came here on holiday, especially to accompany my daughter who transferred from a university in Brazil, Mackenzie University, to California State University in Fresno.
Good choice. She made a good choice. Yeah.
Well, my family, my sister also studied here in Fresno, Cal State. She did her master's degree program in rehabilitation counseling.
Oh, wow.
So that's
family.
the continuity of the family. And I have other cousins that studied here too, agric engineering too, and agronomy and the rest of them.
Right
So
on.
this is a city that has been inhabiting my family for quite some time now.
Family tradition.
Thank
so
you
you've
very
been
much.
here since the holidays, since December?
Yeah, we arrived there on the 24th of December with my daughter, and I'll be leaving back to Brazil now this month, around the 18th of this month, back to Brazil.
Okay.
While my daughter continues with her school work or school activities here in Cal State.
I have to ask you this. As I was getting dressed, I noticed that there was something that's happening in Brazil with a mudslide. That didn't affect your family. There was a mudslide in Brazil, if you hadn't heard.
We had, in fact, it happened just now.
Yes.
I wasn't there, but a little bit we've had the information's gotten to me that it's really devastating. This is the second time similar thing happened. First time, or I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, or 2 years ago, a European company that does exploration, that's mineral explorations in somewhere up north to Brazil, that was a similar thing that took, in fact, devastated the whole town. No? And then second time is this one right now, and unfortunately, whole innocent people who were, some of them were in their lunch break, were having their lunch, and all of a sudden, the whole thing broke out, and everybody just perished in 1 second. So it's it's painful. The situation that is so painful for the whole nation. We're all crying, and
and our hearts go out to
people,
those victims. Our hearts go out to them.
Yeah.
Okay, so talk to us about the Africans who live in Brazil and.
Yeah, we have a population of very good population of black people. Naturally we've been told, and we've accompanied it, and we've seen it happen, and we've been seeing that happen, and that is the real truth. It's commonly noted that the black population in Brazil, or rather, the biggest black population in the world outside Africa is Brazil.
Wow.
Yes. That's
about 97 million.
Yes. Brazilian population about 208 million people.
Mm-hmm.
Out of these 208 million people, it's considered about 43% is a color they call pardo, right? And then 47% are white.
Okay.
And then they attributed to the black population to be 7-point-something%. But you see, the pardo, the so-called pardo, is what's supposed to be considered as the mulatto, or the mixture of one race to the other. I'm a typical example of that. When I had my baby, when I had my son, back in 1989, I went to register my son, and I said, the registry. I said, okay, what's the color? I filled out the form, and I wrote black. Okay. The secretary, or the secretary that handles the registration said, no, you can't be black. It's bad. I said, why? But I'm black. So why pardo? That was my first time even to hear the word pardo being, asked to write it as pardo. I said, no, it's black. They said, no, it's pardo. When there is mix, it's pardo.
Wow.
So you find out that people like me and so many others before me and after me have been on that. So automatically the real result of a black, whatever biological relationship brings forth a human being that is not to be called black, and then they gave their child another name, which is pardo. And then what happens to the black side and what happens to the other side? So psychologically or whatever, I don't know, you're eliminating the real black part of it.
Right.
But however, that is what we know that is in place, right? But then we all consider those who are blacks, we all consider ourselves blacks, whether you're pardo or you're colored, we all consider ourselves black.
So you consider yourself.
Therefore, when you add up the real black, those that accept that they are black, and those that are pardo, which is the mixture of these things predominantly, you find out that we are more than 50% of the population.
So that's about 90%, 90 million.
Wow.
90 million.
Yeah.
That are pardo.
Yeah, it's more than 90 million because the population is about 208 million people. So almost half of it, or a little bit above half of it, is supposed to be considered to be black.
So in terms of the pardo or the mixed race, does that include people who are second generation or third generation biracial? Do you know what I mean?
When the word pardo started to appear, I don't know, historically, I don't know exactly when it started to appear, but that might be a recent, or maybe I don't think it started from the real time, because the slave trade or the first slaves that came into Brazil was around the 30s, in the 1530s, and then the slave trade or whatever ended in Brazil around the 1850s. You know what I mean? That was when it stopped.
Sure.
So I don't know when the ideology of Pardo came forward. You know what I mean?
That is very fascinating.
Yes, so that might be something that has come from historically from somewhere, or probably a way of toning down what might be the possibilities of procreation. I think that's the word.
Well, it makes me think about when I was in grade school, or when I was applying for jobs. On the applications they would have you write down that you're either white or black or Latino. But now, as of late, I noticed that it's white, black, Asian Pacific, Latino, or a Latino regular or Latino white. Mm-hmm. And so it's just so I wonder if the U.S. Census has, or if they're doing something. It's almost like now people are having the option of choosing white, Latino, and biracial. And I think it might be because of popular demand. Some people are saying, hey, like Tiger Woods are saying, hey, I'm not just black, so don't just kind of put me in a box.
Well, that also dilutes our community, too, because
it does.
Whereas 50 years ago, it was just black.
Yes.
Now,
if you had like one drop of African
it's almost
blood.
the opposite of here in Brazil.
Yes.
You have one drop of black in you. As a matter of fact, Plessy versus Ferguson, the very famous Supreme Court case that actually started segregation, that was based on a guy that was really like
mulatto.
Well, actually, it's like about 1/8 black.
Okay,
but that was enough to make him black.
That's right.
Yeah. If you ask my opinion, I really don't like this idea of saying Pardo or this and that, or to bring the ideology forward. It's good you did it. You people didn't follow that in the U.S. because we found out that the black population in the U.S. or the so-called black population in the U.S., whether it's 1% or what, forged ahead.
Yes.
Then the ideology of Pardo in my own country, I didn't see any progress on the black side. I didn't see any progress. There's this question of, my brother, oh, I love you, pat on the back, this and that.
Sure.
And then maybe confuses most of my people, thinking that, I'm one of them, I'm their friend, I belong.
Well, let me ask you
And then in the reality from behind, you are not being given anything. You are left to go to public schools. Yeah. In other places, public schools are the best schools. Where I come from, public schools is the worst school.
So there's black and then Pardo, but the Pardo, they don't get any, there's no benefit.
There's no benefit.
That was my question. Whether or not there are any benefits associated.
The government really spends a lot of money that we are taking care of public schools, but in the real sense, you depend on suppliers of this, that, buying things to supply to schools, and then we have sometimes maybe kickbacks or inflated prices come in, and then it's not sufficiently distributed among the people. Then you find out private schools springing up and then doing the best thing, because a private school where you pay this and that, and then the little black that we feel we have don't even have a good employment. So if you don't have a good employment with a good salary scale, knowing fully well that our salary scale is also not so good comparing to the power of dollar or the power of pound sterling.
Regarding the public school versus the private schools, you are saying that the private schools are better there, right?
Yeah, the private schools tend to be serious because...
So there's a parallel here with that.
Exactly,
too, so
they are better. I used my own example. It was so hard for me to keep my children in private. They all studied in private school.
Okay.
I know how my family, myself and my wife we fought to make sure that they go to private school. In fact, if we go into this, there are so many ideological things that that's been coming up in Brazil over this very issue of the black, the economic situation, this and that is really reflecting today. The impact has been serious. People might not really consider it, but it's really serious because, anyway.
Have you been there all your life?
I've been there the larger part of my life. I was born in Nigeria.
Okay.
Yeah. I left Nigeria at the age of 21. I was an exchange student between Brazil and Nigeria. And I also thank Brazil for giving me the opportunity.
You chose Brazil?
Yes. I fought for it. It was, when I say I fought for it, it's competitive. It's competition. I was among those selected. It is because my country, Nigeria, which also with my country, Brazil, had an economic trade and whatever I call it agreement and the educational agreement that gave me the opportunity to come to Brazil. Okay. And then I remain grateful for Brazil to have made me to be a graduate. So I cannot deny it. I take Brazil as my own home too, and I love Brazil as like any other Brazilian loves Brazil.
Sure. So does that mean you have dual citizenship?
Yes, I have dual citizenship. Wow. So this is a country that made me. This is a country that made me all I am today. This is a country that gave me my wife, that gave me my children. So I will remain forever faithful with Brazil.
That is
But
awesome.
there are a lot of things that are really, the blacks are not moving, things are not really going well. In the maybe facial aspect of it, might say everything is okay, but we know it is not really okay with the black population. We are really on the low supported. We have so many. You see, when a man or a woman can't afford to, work, job dignifies a man.
Sure, absolutely.
When you can't find it, and when you are not well paid, and you have children, and you try to give them education, but you don't have sufficient to feed your children.
Sure.
And, a hungry man or a hungry child cannot concentrate. So we have so many things that really is sociological, that had to lead us to sociological, anthropological, whatever discussion that is wider or broader than what we are talking about and the time we have here. So this is a serious thing to be discussed about,
Absolutely.
maybe an opportunity. But
So
we
let
have lots of things really not balanced in my country.
Right. So are you familiar with the civil rights movement over here in the United States?
Yeah, in fact, United States is an inspiration to the whole world. Perhaps people don't know how important you guys are, even to Africa themselves.
Well, in
Let
many
nobody
ways,
from my own Africa, yes,
We
you
don't
may
know
not
that.
know that. Let nobody from my own Africa feel that, I know we're Africa, we're this, we're that. The blacks here, the black Americans here, in fact, wrote a serious history that nobody knows how to measure it, from my own point of view. Because I know what I've gone through in my life to get to the point I got in my life, to get the achievements I get, the inspirations I have. You guys represent too much or so much to the whole world, black world.
That's good. That's good to hear. And we need to embrace that because, you need
And
to always look at what's happening around the globe, right?
The blacks here, you don't know what you have done to the world and still doing to the world. I wish you people should not slack back.
It hasn't been easy.
Yeah, and I know it
It's
hasn't
taken
been easy.
hundreds of years,
Hundreds
but
of years.
yeah.
But you see, that is where the real difference is. At the beginning, I said, in my own country, the opposite side, or your white colleague, taps at your back. Oh, my friend, my love, we drink together. This is my closest, this and that.
But
the
it's
real
stifled.
behind him, it is not that. Then the black guy sees, he's my friend, and he's confused. You know what I mean? But it's not really the truth.
Yes.
So then I remember my father-in-law used to say, but there's something good about Brazil. Nobody tells you that you should not be part of the society or the system.
That's good. So there's
If
no
you want to go to
segregation.
the public park, you're free. If you want to go to the public swimming pool, you're
That is
free.
good.
You know what I mean?
That is
But
good.
nobody says no. But in America, you are told, this is not your area, don't come.
Well,
So that
used to
issue
be.
of separation, block it. This is not yours. This is not what is the gas
Yeah.
that is put on the black American or the African American to say, no, I will fight and make it.
Yes. I just
I
want
will
to
get for my own children, for my family.
And I
It is
think
not
that-
the same in my country. You belong. You feel you belong, but you don't belong.
So, Mr. Nwaike, I have to inject some stuff. So it used to be that way. It used to be outright racism here in this country. But now there's no, you can't go there. It's not as blatant and explicit. It's not out like that. So,
I agree with you.
So it's very similar. Very
But
similar.
You see, the whole civil rights fights from you guys has been on that.
What you're describing, though, is
In
that-
my own country, there wasn't much of that. Because they feel that they belong, but in the real sense, they don't belong. Where do you blame? You go to the public school that is under, even if it is highly financed by the government. No, you don't see the result of it.
So what you just explained in that little anecdote about patent, that's California racism. We have a California
I don't know
liberal.
about that.
We
No,
have
you don't,
that.
you
We
don't.
do have that.
And that's exactly what most blacks or many blacks experience at their work site where, their white colleague will come on, hey, Joe, how are you? Let's go get a beer. Let's go play some golf. Let's go do this.
And you
that's
feel
the- you feel you want,
you-
and
right.
that's one of the things. And we're naive enough to think, oh, we're friends, but then you don't get that promotion.
This is true.
You don't eat with him.
Been
He
there,
doesn't
done
invite
that.
you to his house.
Got
He
all the
might
T-shirts.
No, he might invite you to the house, but
Right.
you're still not going to get the promotion.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, we're still going to be thumbs down. So that's
This is
our
that is
friends.
the worst of it. I call it the psychological
Exactly.
discrimination.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? He doesn't hit you on your face.
No.
Sure.
You know, he laughs with you, but really, if there is anything good, he'll block you from somewhere.
And then
Yeah.
this is
What
why
does it
many
mean?
black Americans, when they come to California, they say, I don't understand this California racism. In the South, they'll tell you, we
Right.
don't like you. We don't want to mix with you. Out here, they'll say, hey, come on over, be my friend.
This is true.
And they'll still, vote to send you to jail or vote to send you.
And California is perceived by many to be like very liberal, right? Yeah, it's very easy going.
Well, I
with
guess
a lot
compared to
of
the KKK. That's what it is.
yeah, it is. All right, great. Well, that's very interesting, and it's good to see that there's some comparisons. I'm glad that you kind of look up to the way we have things going here.
Critically,
that's
I've
good.
seen this situation.
That's good for the
Because
world
I
to
was,
see.
I was a law student. That what brought me to Brazil. I came as an exchange student. I graduated in law, and I did my master's program in strategic
right, then.
business management.
So you're an attorney.
Yeah, I could say I am, but I don't practice. I just did my graduation and then went into a different field altogether. I went into business.
All right, great. Do you care to talk about your business, or maybe is that for another show?
Yeah, I would prefer that to be for another show because
Okay.
I came here on holidays and academic whatever thing. I have not ventured into the U.S. market, even though I have keen interest in coming into the U.S. market and probably going back this time. We're in 2019, 2018 maybe wasn't there, but now I think I got keen interest in because there has been a little growth in my own, because my project back in Brazil as a fiber business, has also gone into another level. So
That
So
sounds-
when he
that sounds
comes
interesting.
back
Yeah.
to see about his daughter at the end of the semester and to see my play,
Exactly.
Right on.
Yeah.
then you can bring him back.
Yeah, we'll come back.
He
So your
might bring
daughter's
some
in the play?
samples. No, she's not. No,
She's not
I
in the
wish
play.
she could be, but
She's a business student.
business.
Yeah.
student.
But she is into art too. She will really love. If there's a place for her, please call her in.
Now, did you have her conditioned from a young baby that you're going to be a
Actually,
business?
he has a son.
I have
that's
a son
drama.
that is
That's-
good. He's
But he
good.
is pushing them into business. He's
Oh,
not.
wow.
He's already started on Monday now at the same university where my daughter transferred. That's Presbyterian Mackenzie University. My son has been admitted to study economics.
Yes.
So he will start economics there.
Typical Nigerian. The drama thing is good, but you got to
He's
study
good. He's
business.
Business,
good.
yeah.
She's good too. She
People in
plays
every
piano all her
society.
life. She's been in
Is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
So,
So,
we make
pianist.
we make sure our
I got
children.
my eye on her.
Right on.
We make sure our children are exposed to everything. We give them the liberty to do everything. My daughter has been keen in wanting to continue her education in the U.S.
As-
I made sure that she comes this time.
Excellent.
As a young child, did she show any strengths in any given area? Or I know you say you exposed her to a lot. But
Yeah, I exposed
believe
my
that some
daughter.
kids are innate.
We talk about my daughter that is here. I exposed her to a lot. We found out that she's good in sports.
Oh, sports?
She
Okay.
is good in the arts or the playwright.
Sure.
I don't know what you call it.
Yeah,
the arts or
dramatic,
theater.
performing
Yeah,
arts.
performing. She's good in that. She's been exposed to piano. She did lots of presentations
good.
back in Brazil as a student, piano. But one remarkable thing I asked my daughter to be, I found out she's well. You say it in Portuguese, aplicado, meaning she is well.
She applies herself.
No, aplicado means when you have multi talents, right? All weather talent and both.
That's what that
body
word means.
talent. Talent. And
Oh, my
academic
teacher told me I
talent,
was
yeah.
applicado. I didn't know what it meant. All right, now
So-
I get it.
So I requested her when she was finishing her high school that listen, for me to go to run a factory, my cosmetics factory in Brazil, that I want you to be a licensed chemist, chemistry technician. So she did a joint high school, and then technical. That's kind of associate degree
Okay.
on technical chemistry technician, right? So she has a joint degree. So she did that. Daddy, I did that for you because she's good in all the subjects, you know what I
Sure.
mean? But I don't really like the chemistry, but I do that because I did everything. I passed it. I have the certificate. I am a licensed just for you to operate your business, just for you to maybe allow me to take care of the production if you want, but just to satisfy you. But my line is business or the arts. I said, okay. But she wanted to be a lawyer. And I told her, listen, your father came to read law in a country that is not my language, and you
Right.
love to go to the U.S. to study law. You may end up like myself, being not ready, prepared for this or that. You know
Oh,
what
it's
I
a
mean?
great field for her to
Exactly.
go into. I
said,
tried to
listen,
condition my
I
kids
read
to learn
law.
the law.
I found out that I know that I will really compete, but you cannot be equal to those who command the language, the owners of the language, So I felt that it's not fair, it's not right for me to go ahead. Then I told her, listen, if you want to come to the U.S., you know you're going to the U.S. half-half, you know. I don't want you to get frustrated along the way. See, if you don't know what to study, I prefer you go to study business because you can fit into anything
Yes, you
anywhere.
can.
If
Yes,
you
you
feel it
can.
and still want to go to study law, that's all for you.
So it's still kind of open. If she
Still
has
open.
a change of major,
Yeah, if after her bachelor's degree, she wants to go to law, that's her business. But I already have made her to know that she is a chemist. She can run a cosmetics factory. And she's in the home of... the
she's a chemist.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's in the home of where you have the best black products.
How old is she?
She's just 20 years old.
Wow, 20-year-old chemist.
Yeah.
Wow,
So,
that is amazing.
yeah. So, and then she's going to have a bachelor's degree in business, so you won't have any problem like myself.
Yeah,
Now, like I told
avocado.
you. Yeah. Now, you see, I'm half-half. I'm half-half. Half law, half business. Things I want to know in business, I can't know them because I didn't study business. You know what I mean?
Right,
Then
right.
they get better than myself, get degree in this, and then after that, you want to fly, you fly. If you want to be a theater artist, you go ahead and do that. Whatever
Yes,
you want.
yes.
But when the thing is business, or when you want to run what I'm living for, what I may live for you guys, you will understand what happens in the world of business. You know,
Based
that
on
is
what you
my
just
aim.
said, it reminds me of a book I read probably 20 years ago called The Miseducation of the Negro. And one of the nuggets of wisdom I got from that book was that a fallacy, or one of the things that African Americans do wrong is if a father has a business and he sends his daughter or son to college, you know, that son or daughter will go and study just whatever they want to study instead of using that time and using that education to improve that family business and thereby take it to another level. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what that reminded me of right there.
Interesting. In fairness, and that's a human thing because I talk to a lot of my white colleagues and other business owners, and they say the same thing. You know, my son, they don't want to get into the business, whatever the business is. You know, plumbing or restaurateur or something. They don't. That generation doesn't want to do that. They want to do something else. So a lot of businesses shut down because the son or the daughter doesn't want to stay in the family business. Now, a lot of kids want to, but one of the things about being free in America is that, you know, you choose your own path.
You do choose it.
We never ask them to choose your path. We say, we tell you what is the
But
good
the
things you
distinction,
have on
That's
the road.
right. That's right.
the distinction is, though, if I'm an actor and I'm raising little kids, now I'm talking about before they go to college, if I'm really gifted as an actor or singer, whatever, you are going to learn what I teach you as long as you live under my house, under my rules. I mean, that's just kind of how it is.
Acting is like sports.
It is.
When you have that art, it's born in you.
Yes.
God-given talent.
It's a talent. It's something
It's a talent.
different from academic. You know what
Yes.
I mean?
But like many things, it has to be cultivated and practiced and rehearsed.
Yeah.
I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank
All right,
you.
starting right here.
Thank you
Professor
very much.
Ellis,
My pleasure.
Mr. Nwaike.
Nwaike, yeah.
Okay, don't go into place though yet.
All
I'm
right.
going to go into closing, and then we're going to be all done. In closing, as public schools become increasingly culturally diverse, school administration should recognize that we need to teach students to learn about and respect one another's cultures. We must educate our students in a way that validates and affirms the cultures of others, because we know that in doing so, it benefits everybody involved. I want to remind everybody that in the state of California and throughout the entire nation, there's a pervasive achievement gap, and not enough is being done to address it. And as we kind of illustrated here and described, one reason for that is that public schools aren't doing enough to motivate students of color. Right? How can they motivate students of color, you ask? Well, for starters, teachers could become a little bit more familiar or aware about the cultures of the students that they are instructing. And sometimes, you know, teachers only know what they know. And so the solution actually does lie in the teacher education programs where teachers are graduating. So simply put, public education has to do more. You know, like I said earlier, if science and math teachers were instructing students about the wonders of math and in science and talking to them about, you know, Katherine Johnson and Ms. Vaughn and Mary Jackson and Katherine Johnson, those women from Hidden Figures, that movie, and just all kinds of wonderful things and contributions that African Americans and students and people of color have made, then I think it'll cause students to be a little bit more inspired in the classroom and ask those kinds of questions they need to ask. In the words of A. Philip Randolph, freedom is never given, it is won. And in the words of Eldridge Cleaver, you're either part of the solution or, brother, you are part of the problem. And that's our time for this week. Thank you for joining us. Remember that if you have a pressing topic or a burning event, something really special happening, you know, you want to get worldwide attention to it, it's just as easy as being a guest on the Just As Easy show. Until next time, you all take care.